前的牛车水啊，你好像你搬去哪里，去外国了，也是你的心会想回牛车水。现在没有人想，已经改变了。你看，好像一个晚上让你吃饭，一个碗很美的，你会保留它。忽然间你没有用到它，那已经没有水分了，它自己会破裂。当你那用回的时候，它已经好像破烂了。
To understand the formation of Chinatown, we first have to understand the migration history of the Chinese. In the late 19th century, colonial masters from the West opened up China's seaport by force. Sea routes were set up, connecting China's coastal provinces with the rest of the world. In this period of time, there were continuous war and internal disputes in China. Turmoil such as the Opium War and Xinhai Revolution make it difficult for the Chinese to have a stable income. In sick of a better life, many Chinese fled their country. They settled down in various places, far and wide. This include places such as Nanyang, America, and Australasia. Menial and labor-intensive jobs such as coolies were prevalent in the early overseas Chinese community. Due to the harsh living conditions, there was a need for solace and comfort, and above all, a channel to survive in an unfamiliar environment. The social context they were in also forces them to stay strong as a Chinese community. Due to the nature of their menial jobs, most Chinese held lowly status in the foreign land and faced serious discrimination by the locals. In America, various anti-Chinese movements were sparked due to the large influx of Chinese laborers into the country. Besides the social exclusion by locals, the government's take on migrants issue also contributed to the separation of the Chinese and other ethnic groups by demarcating specific locations for different races. In Japan, the Chinese community was restricted to Yokohama, and they are strictly forbidden to leave the region allocated to them. In the case of Singapore, Sir Stamford Raffles introduced the Jackson's Plan in 1822, allocating residential regions for the various races. Areas around Kera Ayak were allocated to the Chinese community. Chinatown has been an emerging phenomenon throughout the world since the late 19th century. It has been a prominent topic for scholarly research, and Singapore's Chinatown has received much heated debate. Many scholars have pointed out that the government's intervention in the 70s has redefined the function of the space. As a result, the cultural landscape is rewritten and the original cultural identity of the space is erased.
以前的时候就很多很挤那些人，现在就是说，人也没有，人潮也没有这么多，只是看到一些外国游客走来走去。
Chinatown has been an important commerce and residential area of the Chinese community in the last century and continues to play an important role to some even up till today. It still serves as a center for some elderly Chinese, and daily activities such as chess games and gatherings are abound.
所有以前住喺即係嗰啲住喺舊樓，以前叫舊樓嘛，嗰啲咁嘅舊嘅店屋樓上咧叫舊樓嘛，嗰啲已經搬走咗啦，變咗咧唔同晒啦，裝修過，重新嚟做過晒。咁樣就去嗰啲咧樓下做商店啊，樓上咧做 office 啊咁樣，家下咧就冇嗰啲住家啦。
Soon, modernity came knocking. By the 70s, Singapore was en route to a major transformation. Chinatown was not spared either. Relocation for the Chinese was carried out as the old Chinatown transformed from a self-contained residential area into a commercialized tourist spot. The Chinese community was dispersed and racial boundaries throughout the country were diminished. A new Chinese identity was constructed, complete with flashy signboards and retail outlets. old shop houses donned a modern streak of vibrancy. A tourist-driven industry thrived and foreign faces appeared, constituting the main population who visits Chinatown.
外国人比较多了，游测水的人比较退化，改变很多，真的看不到。
Many scholars argued that the government's intervention was the driving factor for the dilution of Chinese identity in Chinatown. They blamed commercialization and reconstruction for the diminishing old cultures. However, is this really the truth? If we compare the development of Singapore's Chinatown with the rest of the world, we can observe a common trend. These Chinatowns are in the process of being shaped into tourist spots and are increasingly localized. With or without government's intervention, the global phenomenon of dilution of Chinese identity in the space is still prominent. Is this ultimately an inevitable process?
顧客咧多數係年輕嘅，着到新潮嘅，同埋咧係講英語嘅。咁啊嗰啲咧，多數係白領工作人啊。
Traditions are always the first casualty to progress. If the decision is left to the Singapore's Chinese community, will the younger generation still have the will to preserve the Chinese identity of the space?
Right now, the new generation is more detached. They don't consider China as their motherland anymore. The kind of Chinese identity that the generations of our fathers and grandfathers uphold are no longer relevant to them. The action of the state, although it superimposes a kind of Chineseness onto the place, but actually it has nothing to do with the daily everyday life of the people living in there or working in there. So I think there's definitely the kind of changes in the kind of identity that we call Chinese.
It's just a town that is China, from China.
Nothing much to do over here. Just maybe walk around, eat, that's all.
It don't mean anything to me actually.